Disturbing Reddit confessions. Dr. Lisa Chen was a clinical psychologist who specialized in treating patients with intrusive thoughts and obsessive-compulsive disorder. She'd heard countless confessions during her career, but nothing prepared her for what she discovered on Reddit in January 2026. Lisa used Reddit anonymously to stay current with mental health discussions and to better understand how people sought support online. While browsing her Slash confessions late one night, she came across a post that made her pause. The username was u/thetruthseeker_2026, account created that same day. The post title was simple: "I'm documenting something that shouldn't be documented." "I work as a mortician," the post began. "For the past 3 months, I've been noticing something impossible. Bodies come in, and sometimes, not always, but sometimes they whisper, not immediately and not constantly, but around 3 a.m., if I'm alone in the morgue, I hear them. Always the same message. Tell them I know what they did." Lisa's clinical training made her immediately categorize this as potential auditory hallucinations, possibly sleep deprivation induced. But something about the specific detail, always 3 a.m., always the same message, piqued her interest. She continued reading. "At first, I thought I was losing my mind. Stress, long hours, grief from the job. But then I started recording. I have audio. Clear, undeniable audio of voices coming from bodies that have been dead for hours, sometimes days. And here's the disturbing part. I looked into these people's deaths. Every single one who spoke was ruled accidental or natural causes. But when I dig deeper, I find people in their lives who had motive, a spouse who'd benefit from life insurance, a business partner who'd inherit everything, a child who'd been written out of the will." The post continued with meticulous detail. The user had documented 17 cases over 3 months, all following the same pattern. Dead body speaks at 3 a.m. Investigation reveals potential murder disguised as natural death, but no proof beyond the impossible testimony of corpses. Lisa read through the comments. Most dismissed it as creative fiction. Typical r Slash confessions material. But a few users were genuinely disturbed, asking for the audio files. u/thetruthseeker_2026 responded, "I can't share them publicly, but I will share them with anyone who seriously wants to investigate. DM me?" Against her better judgment, Lisa sent a direct message. "I'm a psychologist researching auditory phenomena. I'd like to hear your recordings." The response came within minutes. "You're not a psychologist. You're Lisa Chen, Ph.D., specializing in OCD and intrusive thoughts, practicing in Seattle. You live at Lisa's exact address. You drive a blue Honda Civic, license plate, exact number, and you're currently sitting in your home office, wearing gray sweatpants and a university t-shirt." Lisa's blood ran cold. She looked down, gray sweatpants, university t-shirt. She jumped up and checked her windows, but her blinds were closed. How could this person know what she was wearing? Another message came through. "I know what you're thinking. How'd I know these things? The same way I know that 17 people were murdered and made to look like natural deaths. The dead tell me everything, Dr. Chen. They see everything. They know everything. And they want the truth exposed." Lisa should have stopped there, should have blocked the user, reported the messages, contacted police about the stalking. But something, professional curiosity mixed with denial that this was real, made her type back. "If the dead really tell you things, what can they tell you about me?" The response took longer this time. 5 minutes of waiting that felt like hours. Then you had a patient. 3 years ago. Elderly woman, Judith Palmer. Severe OCD. Intrusive thoughts about harming her husband. You were treating her with exposure therapy. She stopped coming to sessions. 2 months later, her husband died in his sleep. Heart attack, they said. Natural causes. But Judith's intrusive thoughts weren't just thoughts, were they? She acted on them. Potassium injection, impossible to detect. She confessed to you in your final session, but you didn't report it because doctor-patient confidentiality. Lisa felt the room spin. Judith Palmer had been her patient. The details were accurate. The intrusive thoughts, the husband's death, the confession Lisa had struggled with ethically. But Lisa had never documented that confession anywhere except in her private journal, which was locked in her home safe. How do you know about Judith? Lisa typed, her hand shaking. I told you, the dead know everything. Judith's husband, Robert, was in my morgue last week. Not a recent death. They exhumed his body for unrelated reasons. And at 3 a.m., he told me everything. About Judith's injection. About your session. About how you chose confidentiality over justice. That's impossible, Lisa wrote. You couldn't know. I know because the dead don't lie, Dr. Chen. They can't. Death strips away all deception. And they're very, very angry about the lies the living tell. Lisa closed her laptop and tried to rationalize. This had to be a hacker, someone who'd access her files, her location data, her security cameras maybe. But the detail about Judith's confession, that existed nowhere digital, only in her handwritten journal. Lisa opened her safe. The journal was there undisturbed, but as she flipped to the relevant entry, she found something that hadn't been there before, a small post note stuck to the page. In handwriting that definitely wasn't hers, it read, 3 a.m. Listen. Lisa called the police, reported the stalking, the messages, the break-in. They took her statement, checked her security system, no signs of forced entry, promised to investigate. But they were clearly skeptical, treating it as online harassment rather than serious threat. That night, Lisa couldn't sleep. She sat in her living room with every light on, her phone in her hand, ready to call 911. As her clock approached 3 a.m., she heard it, a whisper, so faint she almost thought she'd imagined it. Dr. Chen? Lisa froze. The whisper came again, and this time she could identify the direction from her home office, where she'd been sitting when the messages started. Dr. Chen, we need to talk. Lisa grabbed a flashlight and approached the office, every instinct screaming at her to run instead. She pushed open the door and swept the beam across the room. Empty, but her laptop, which she'd shut down hours ago, was open and glowing. On the screen was Reddit, specifically /the TruthSeeker_2026 profile. But the post had changed. Instead of the original confession about the morgue, there were new posts. Hundreds of them, all made in the past 3 hours. Each post was addressed to a different username, other Reddit users who commented on the original thread. And each post contained personal information about those users, intimate details about their lives, their secrets, their confessions they'd never made public. And at the bottom of each post, 3 a.m. is when truth is told. The dead are waiting to speak to you. Lisa scrolled through them, her horror growing. These weren't random details. They were the kinds of things people took to their graves. Murders, affairs, deaths, abuse. All exposed, all attributed to knowledge gained from corpses in a morgue. Then Lisa saw her own name. A new post, made at exactly 3 a.m. Dr. Lisa Chen, Seattle, Washington. Clinical psychologist. Patient confidentiality violated. 0. Deaths caused by that silence. 1. Question. How many more people will die because you chose silence over truth? The laptop screen flickered, and a video began playing. Security footage from what looked like a morgue. A figure in scrubs moved between gurneys, each covered with a white sheet. The timestamp showed 3 a.m. As Lisa watched, the figure approached each body and placed a hand on the chest. And then, clear enough to make Lisa's breath catch, She heard it. Whispers. Multiple voices. Overlapping. All speaking different words but with the same urgent tone. The figure in the video pulled back their hood, and Lisa saw a face that made no sense. It was her own face. Not similar, not a look-alike, but exactly her face, down to the small scar above her right eyebrow. The video Lisa looked directly at the camera and spoke. "You want to know how I know everything, Dr. Chen? It's because I am you. Or, rather, you're becoming me. Every person who reads these confessions, who learns these truths, becomes part of the network. The dead don't speak through one person. They speak through everyone who listens. And once you've listened, you can't unhear. You can't unknow. You become a vessel for truth that was meant to stay buried." Lisa slammed the laptop shut, but the whispers continued, and now they weren't coming from the computer. They were coming from everywhere, the walls, the floor, the air itself. Dozens of voices, hundreds maybe, all speaking at once. Tell them what you know. Expose the lies. Justice to the murdered. Truth cannot stay silent. Lisa ran from her house and drove to the hospital, convinced she was having a psychotic break. But in the emergency room, surrounded by doctors and nurses and other patients, the whispers continued, and now she could distinguish individual voices, individual confessions. The man in bed 3 had murdered his wife 5 years ago, made it look like suicide. The nurse treating Lisa's panic attack had stolen medication and caused 2 patient deaths through negligence. The doctor who examined her had accepted bribes to falsify autopsy reports. Lisa could hear it all, knowledge pouring into her mind from sources that couldn't exist, truths that the living had buried being exhumed by the dead. The psychiatric evaluation diagnosed acute psychosis. They admitted her, started medication, began treatment, but the whispers never stopped. And worse, Lisa found she couldn't help but share what she heard. She told the police about the murdered wife. Investigation proved it true. She reported the nurse's negligence. Records confirmed it. She exposed the doctor's corruption. Evidence substantiated every claim. The hospital released her after a week. Her diagnosis changed to unexplained phenomenon. Because Lisa wasn't crazy, she was accurate. Impossibly, terrifyingly accurate. Other users who'd engage with you / the truthseeker _ 2026 posts started reporting similar experiences. They heard whispers, knew things they shouldn't, felt compelled to expose buried truths. The original user's account was eventually suspended, but it didn't matter. The phenomenon had spread. Lisa now maintains a blog where she documents confessions that come to her at 3 a.m. Most people think she's a fraud, using research and public records to fake psychic knowledge. But law enforcement agencies quietly consult her because her information is accurate enough to close cold cases. She never learned who originally created you / the truthseeker _ 2026. Maybe it was a mortician. Maybe it was something pretending to be human. Or maybe it was exactly what it claimed, a conduit for the dead to speak through. Lisa knows now that confessions don't always come from the living. Sometimes they come from those who can no longer lie, who see everything from wherever the dead reside, who use the willing and the unwilling, to ensure truth doesn't stay buried forever. Reddit has dozens of similar confessions now, posted by users who all claim the same thing. At 3 a.m., the dead speak. And once you've heard them, you become their voice. Lisa checks Reddit every night, watching as new confessions appear, as more people join the network of unwilling mediums. She wonders how many cold cases will be solved this way, how many murders will be exposed, and she wonders what price humanity will pay for a world where no secret can stay hidden, where the dead refuse to let truth die with them. It's 2:57 a.m. now, 3 minutes until the whispers begin again. Lisa is listening. The dead have so much to say.